You know what? Nobody wants to talk about the fact that your family screwed you up before you even knew what screwing up meant. Yeah, I said it. And before you click away, thinking this is just another blame your parents video, stick around, because what I'm about to tell you might just crack open the vault where you've been hiding your deepest wounds. See, here's the brutal truth that society doesn't want you to face. You didn't choose your first teachers. You didn't pick the voices that would echo in your head for decades. You didn't select the hands that would either lift you up or tear you down when you were too small to even understand what was happening. But those voices, those hands, they shaped you anyway. Franz Kafka knew this, the guy who wrote about people turning into bugs and endless bureaucratic nightmares. He lived it. His father was a psychological wrecking ball, and Kafka spent his entire adult life trying to recover from the damage done before he could even spell his own name. And you know what the really messed up part is? Nobody prepared you for this realization. The invisible wounds we all carry. Let me paint you a picture. You're 3 years old, maybe 4. Your pure potential wrapped in tiny human form. Your brain is like wet cement. Everything leaves an impression. Every word, every look, every moment of neglect or love gets carved into your developing sense of self. Now here's where it gets dark. Your parents are dealing with their own demons. Maybe your mom is drowning in her own unhealed trauma. Maybe your dad is repeating the same patterns his father used on him. Maybe they're both just flying blind, hoping they don't mess you up too badly. But here's the thing. Hope doesn't heal wounds. Good intentions don't erase damage. And the road to psychological hell is paved with parents who did their best. I'm not here to bash your parents. I'm here to tell you the truth. They were probably doing the best they could with what they had. But that doesn't mean their best was good enough. And it definitely doesn't mean you have to pretend it didn't hurt. Kafka wrote a 47-page letter to his father that he never sent. 47 pages of pure, unfiltered truth about how his father's criticism, his coldness, his impossible standards had shaped him into a man who felt like a stranger in his own skin. You know what Kafka called himself? A nothing. Not because he was nothing, but because that's what his father's treatment had convinced him he was. Sound familiar? Here's what nobody tells you about childhood. It's not just about what happened to you. It's about what didn't happen for you. Maybe your parents never hit you. Great, but did they see you? Really see you? Or were you just another item on their to-do list? Maybe they provided for you financially. Awesome. But did they provide for you emotionally? Or did you learn that love was conditional, based on performance, achievements, being good? Maybe they never screamed at you. But did they talk to you? Or did you grow up in a house where silence was the default, where feelings were treated like dangerous explosives that might go off if anyone acknowledged them? This is the programming you never asked for. These are the beliefs about yourself and the world that got installed in your mental operating system before you even knew you had one. And society wants you to just get over it. Move on. Stop living in the past, as if trauma follows a convenient timeline. As if damage done to a developing brain just evaporates when you turn 18 and legally become an adult. The wounds are real. The impact is real. And pretending otherwise is just another way of abandoning yourself, which, let's be honest, you probably learned to do very early on. Kafka understood something that most people spend their whole lives trying to figure out. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most become the architects of your psychological prison. His father wasn't evil. He was just a man who believed that toughness was love, that criticism was motivation, that showing affection was weakness. Sound like anyone you know? But here's the twisted part. Kafka kept trying to win his father's approval, even as an adult, even when he was a brilliant writer, even when he was creating masterpieces that would outlive them both. That's the trap. That's the programming. You spend your whole life trying to earn something you should have been given freely. Unconditional acceptance. I see this everywhere. Successful people who feel like frauds. Talented individuals who can't accept compliments. Adults who apologize for taking up space. People who have achieved everything they thought they wanted but still feel empty inside. You know why? Because there's still that little kid waiting for mommy or daddy to finally say, "You're enough, you matter, I'm proud of you." But here's the brutal truth. That moment might never come. And even if it does, it won't heal the wound because you're not that little kid anymore. You're the adult who has to learn to give yourself what you never received. Let me blow your mind for a second. Your parents damaged you the same way their parents damaged them. And their parents were damaged by their parents. It's trauma passed down like a family heirloom nobody wants but everybody gets. Your grandmother's depression that nobody talked about. That became your mother's anxiety. Your grandfather's rage that he never dealt with. That became your father's emotional unavailability. And now you're walking around with all of it. Their unexpressed grief, their unhealed wounds, their unmet needs. Like you're carrying a backpack full of rocks that aren't even yours. Kafka saw this clearly. He wrote about bureaucratic systems that made no sense, about trying to navigate a world where the rules kept changing, where nothing you did was ever quite right. Sound like your childhood dinner table? The family system is often the first bureaucratic nightmare we encounter, the first place we learn that our needs don't matter as much as keeping the peace. The first place we discover that our authentic self might not be acceptable. And then we wonder why we struggle with boundaries as adults. Why we attract people who treat us poorly. Why we sabotage our own success. Why we feel guilty for being happy. It's not a mystery. It's programming. Bad programming that was installed before you could protect yourself. Here's where society really screws you over. The narrative that as long as your parents weren't physically abusive, as long as they put food on the table and kept a roof over your head, you should be grateful. You should shut up about your first world problems. This is gaslighting on a cultural level. Emotional neglect is real abuse. Having your feelings dismissed is real trauma. Being treated like an inconvenience in your own home leaves real scars. But because there are no bruises, because there's no dramatic story to tell, your pain gets minimized, even by you. Let me be clear. You don't need to have survived a horror story to have been damaged. You don't need to have been beaten or molested or abandoned to carry wounds that affect every relationship you'll ever have. Sometimes the deepest damage comes from what looks like a normal family. The family that looks good from the outside but feels like an emotional desert on the inside. Kafka's family looked respectable. His father was a successful businessman. They weren't poor. They weren't outcasts. But Kafka felt like he was suffocating his entire life because respectability isn't the same as love. Providing isn't the same as nurturing. Being present physically isn't the same as being present emotionally. Right now, as you're hearing this, there's a part of you that's still that little kid, still waiting for someone to notice your pain, still hoping that if you're good enough, smart enough, successful enough, someone will finally give you the love you needed then. But here's what nobody tells you. That little kid isn't going anywhere until you acknowledge their pain, until you stop dismissing their needs as childish or selfish or dramatic. That child within you has been trying to get your attention your whole life, through your anxiety, through your depression, through your relationship patterns, through your self-sabotage. They're not trying to ruin your life. They're trying to save it. They're trying to get you to stop abandoning yourself the way everyone else did. And you know what? They deserve to be heard. That little version of you who tried so hard to be lovable deserves to know that they were always enough. They always mattered. The failure wasn't theirs. It was the system's. Here's where most people check out. Because acknowledging the damage is hard, but healing it, that's terrifying. It means grieving the childhood you never had. It means accepting that your parents were flawed humans who couldn't give you what they didn't have themselves. It means taking responsibility for your healing, even though you didn't cause your wounds. It means becoming the parent to yourself that you needed then. And society doesn't want you to do this work. Society wants you to shut up, suck it up, and keep producing, keep consuming, keep pretending that everything is fine. But everything isn't fine. And it never will be until you face the truth about what happened to you before you could protect yourself. The mental health industry wants to pathologize you, give you a diagnosis, put you on medication, make you think you're broken instead of recognizing that you're responding normally to abnormal treatment. The self-help industry wants to sell you quick fixes. Just think positive. Just manifest better. Just choose happiness. As if decades of programming can be overwritten with affirmations and vision boards. But real healing is messy, it's slow, it's painful, and it requires you to feel everything you were taught to suppress. Kafka had the courage to see his situation clearly, even when it was painful, even when it made him unpopular, even when it would have been easier to just go along with the family narrative. He wrote, "A book must be the axe for the frozen sea inside us. Your story, your real story, not the sanitized version your family wants you to tell, is that axe. It's what breaks through the frozen sea of denial and pretense and finally lets you feel what you need to feel. But it takes courage, because once you start seeing clearly, you can't unsee. Once you acknowledge the damage, you can't pretend it didn't happen. Once you feel the pain, you have to choose what to do with it. And that's terrifying, because it means you might have to change everything. Your relationships, your career, your entire identity might need to shift when you stop living from your wounds and start living from your truth. But here's what they don't tell you about healing. There's freedom on the other side of this pain. There's a version of you that exists beyond your programming, beyond your family's limitations, beyond the damage that was done before you could protect yourself. That version of you, they're incredible, they're creative, they're powerful, they're everything you were meant to be before the world taught you to be small. Kafka caught glimpses of this version of himself in his writing. In those moments when he was creating, he transcended his programming. He became more than his father's criticism, more than his family's dysfunction, more than the damage that had been done. And you can too. But first, you have to be willing to look at what is, not what you wish it had been, not what you were told it was, what it actually was. Your family damaged you before you could protect yourself. That's not your fault. But healing that damage? That's your responsibility, not because you owe it to anyone else, but because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to that little kid who deserved better. You owe it to the person you're meant to become. Here's the thing about family damage. It doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It doesn't heal just because time passes. It doesn't resolve just because you achieve success or find love or have children of your own. It sits there. In your nervous system, in your subconscious, in your automatic responses to stress and conflict and intimacy. It influences every decision you make, every relationship you enter, every dream you chase or abandon, until you face it, until you feel it, until you grieve it and heal it, and integrate it into your story in a way that serves you instead of enslaving you. And when you do that work, when you really do it, not just talk about it or think about it or read about it, everything changes. You stop seeking approval from people who can't give it. You stop accepting treatment that doesn't honor your worth. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You become whole, not perfect, whole, with all your scars and stories and struggles integrated into a life that actually belongs to you. So here's what I want you to do after you finish this video. I want you to sit with yourself for a few minutes. Really sit. No phone, no distractions, no running away, and I want you to ask yourself, What damage was done to me before I could protect myself? What patterns am I still living from? What would my life look like if I was free from this programming? Don't try to fix anything yet. Don't try to forgive anyone yet. Just see, just acknowledge, just witness your own truth with compassion. Because you can't heal what you won't feel, and you can't change what you won't acknowledge. Your family damaged you before you could protect yourself. But you can protect yourself now. You can heal yourself now. You can choose differently now. The question is, will you? If this video hit you in the gut, and if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's still carrying damage they didn't cause but haven't healed, share this video, because sometimes the most loving thing we can do is help someone see their own truth. And remember, you're not too much, you're not too sensitive. You're a human being who deserves to be loved, starting with how you love yourself. Take care of that little kid inside you. They've been waiting long enough.